Chapter 1737. Even though he had not met Bailey Hongzhuang many times, from what he had understood in this short period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely stronger than many other women. He felt that the young sect master's judgment had never been wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang was better than Han Xiling and was more suitable to be the young sect master's wife. Other than those who did not like Bailey Hongzhuang to begin with, he believed that most of the cultivators who knew Bailey Hongzhuang would like her more and more after getting to know Bailey Hongzhuang. Because Bailey Hongzhuang's hard work and seriousness were filled with endless charm. When he had first seen Bailey Hongzhuang, he could not help but be stunned by Bailey Hongzhuang's countenance as a flower and as the moon. However, after interacting with her for such a long time, what made him even more stunned was Bailey Hongzhuang's seriousness and hard work. As a cultivator from a small empire, Bailey Hongzhuang had to endure much more pressure than Han Xiling to participate in the assessment competition. Furthermore, he was well aware of the difference in power between Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Xiling. Even with such a difference in power, Bailey Hongzhuang had still managed to defeat Han Xiling. This proved Bailey Hongzhuang's power and battle power. A cultivator's cultivation level was high, but it did not mean that their battle power was strong. This point could be deduced from Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Xiling's situation. He did not know why the sect master was so protective of Bailey Hongzhuang, but he felt that there was nothing wrong with it. Great Elder has really suffered a double loss this time. I'm afraid that he will not be able to recover for a period of time, Qin Sha sighed. Qin Ai sighed faintly. He had never imagined that the Great Elder would experience such a scene. It was truly unexpected. The sect master's reaction today is a little unusual. I haven't seen the sect master so angry in a long time. Why don't we go in and take a look? Gu Jingqing asked. Since such a thing had happened, even if the sect master really had something important to discuss with the young sect master, he would not continue the discussion. Hearing this, Qin Ai thought for a moment, then nodded, okay. Not long after Han Hongyi was taken away, the cultivators of Tiangang's sect saw this scene and their faces were filled with shock. Oh my God, are my eyes playing tricks on me? The Great Elder was taken away by force. It seems that the person who was appointed by the sect master was indeed the Great Elder. I think that the Great Elder is the sect master's right. The Great Elder's position has plummeted to the ground. Of the Great's position. Since the fall of Han Xiling, the Great Elder has also died. A group of cultivators sighed. They had stayed in Tiangang's sect for so long, but they had never encountered such a thing. The Great Elder was taken away by force. Looking at the Great Elder's unwilling expression, it was obvious that this was the sect master's punishment. Since the Great Elder has ended up like this, it proves that the sect master is on Bailey Hongzhuang's side. We can't offend Bailey Hongzhuang in the future. Otherwise, we'll have to bear the consequences. The cultivators of Tiangang's sect had already made up their minds. When Han Xiling was still around, they were not sure if the final winner would be Han Xiling or Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, there was no doubt about the answer. Bailey Hongzhuang was the future young sect master's wife. They had to treat her with respect. Chapter 1738. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching followed Situ Yen back to the bedroom. After what happened with Han Hongyi, they felt a little helpless. The Great Elder is really making trouble out of nothing this time. Hongzhuang, you don't have to take it to heart. Situ Yen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his voice full of love and care. He did not want this to affect Hongzhuang's mood. Hongzhuang did not need to feel any psychological burden at all. Feeling Situ Yan's kindness, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, and a gentle and obedient smile slowly appeared on her lips. I understand. Di Beichen was also happy when he saw Situ Yen treating Bailey Hongzhuang so well. Hongzhuang's life in the past was really too hard. In comparison, although he was also an orphan, he had his master by his side to take care of him and encourage him instead of being bullied by others. He was much happier than Hongzhuang. In the past, only he felt sorry for Hongzhuang. Now, his master would also feel sorry for Hongzhuang. Thinking of this, he felt happy for Hongzhuang. Situ Yen patted Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and said earnestly, "Hongzhuang, Grandpa was not by your side in the past and could not take good care of you. Now, as long as it's something you need, just tell Grandpa. As long as Grandpa can do it, Grandpa will definitely do it." Situ Yan's eyes were deep and serious. He only wanted to treat Hongzhuang well to make up for the debt he owed to Hongzhuang all these years. On the other hand, to him, it was already a very happy thing that God gave him such an opportunity to treat others well. "Thank you, Grandpa." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly, and there was a hint of satisfaction in her smile. In this life, she had not experienced the slightest bit of care from her elders. Now that she could feel her grandfather's care, she felt very happy. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang call him Grandpa, Situ Yen had an indescribable satisfaction. Today was probably the day he smiled the most happily ever since Mu Jint's left his life. "Hongzhuang, don't worry. I will definitely rescue Lingbing and your father as soon as possible." Situ Yan's deep and aged eyes flickered with a serious and resolute light. His daughter had suffered so much because of him, so he had to rescue Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao as soon as possible. As long as he rescued Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao, it would be time to settle the score with that vicious woman, Yu Siqing. From the beginning until now, because of Yu Siqing's numerous obstructions, his life was ruined, and even his daughter and granddaughter were ruined. If he did not hack Yu Siqing into 1,000 pieces, it would be impossible to dispel the hatred in his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She knew that Situ Yen was more eager than her to rescue her parents as soon as possible. They were all working hard for this goal. Now that everything was gradually improving, she believed that they were getting closer and closer to rescuing her parents. Soon, she would be able to reunite with her parents. In her previous life, she had never seen her parents. In this life, she was glad that her parents were still alive. At least they still had a chance to reunite. "Grandpa, let's work hard together," Bailey Hongzhuang said firmly. "Father and mother must be waiting for us to rescue them." Chapter 1739. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was conversing with Si Tuyen, Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing's voices rang out from outside the door. They were not like the great elder who insisted on seeing the sect master. If the sect master was unwilling to see them now, they would definitely leave immediately. Subordinate Qin Ai requests an audience with the sect master. Subordinate Gu Jingqing requests an audience with the sect master. Hearing the voices outside the door, Si Tuyen's expression changed and he could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. What he cared about the most now was his granddaughter's thoughts. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She recalled that when she had first arrived at Tiangang's sect, Palace Master Qin and Palace Master Gu had spoken up for her in the meeting hall. She understood that Palace Master Qin and Palace Master Gu had always been on Bewitching's side. Hence, she was grateful to the two sect masters. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang did not object, Si Tuyen then said, "Come in." Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing walked into the room after hearing Si Tuyen's voice. When they saw that only Si Tuyen, Di Beichen, and Bailey Hongzhuang were in the room, they were very calm. "Greetings, sect master." "Greetings, young sect master." The two of them bowed respectfully. "You may rise." Si Tuyen raised his right hand and indicated for Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing to rise. Bailey Hongzhuang also bowed when she saw Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing. "Greetings, Palace Master Qin and Palace Master Gu." Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. Their feelings towards Bailey Hongzhuang were extremely complicated. In terms of status, Bailey Hongzhuang was only an ordinary disciple of Tiangang's sect. Hence, it was very normal for Bailey Hongzhuang to bow to them. But they were equally clear that Bailey Hongzhuang was the future young sect master's wife, so this greeting wasn't appropriate. From their point of view, sect master, young sect master and Bailey Hongzhuang were here to discuss matters. Perhaps they were discussing the marriage between young sect master and Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for this, the first elder's repeated interruptions wouldn't have caused the sect master to fly into a rage. Situ Yen took in the changes in Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing's expressions. He could also understand Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing's helplessness in terms of etiquette. Sect Master, isn't it a little inappropriate for the Great Elder to be punished like this? Qin Ai could not help but speak up after thinking about it for a while. Usually, many of the sect's matters were handled by the Great Elder. Now that the Great Elder was locked up, he wouldn't be able to come out for the time being. This would definitely affect the sect to a certain extent. Qin Ai could not help but look worriedly at Situ Yen. He did not want to anger the sect master because of this matter. This is caused by his own actions. There's no need to plead for leniency. Situ Yan's attitude was firm. He wasn't giving Han Hongyi a chance because of the beautiful jade doll. It was Han Hongyi's own actions that led to this outcome. In the days that he wasn't around, Bewitching had left Tiangang's sect because he was being persecuted. Hence, in those 3 years, the Great Elder's sense of authority had been constantly magnified. Until now, the Great Elder's impetuous heart had yet to calm down. If he didn't give the Great Elder a warning, who knew what kind of outrageous things the Great Elder would do? The Great Elder hasn't dealt with the sect's matters these days. Why don't we take this opportunity to let the other elders familiarize themselves with it? Chapter 1740. Following Si Tuyen's words, Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing's expressions changed. Stormy waves involuntarily surged in their hearts. The sect master's words meant that he wanted to take away First Elder's authority. Once the other elders were allowed to divide the First Elder's responsibilities, it would mean that the other elders were allowed to divide the First Elder's authority. In this way, it wouldn't be long before First Elder's power was stripped away. Thinking of this, the two of them found it inconceivable. First Elder had been in Tiangang's sect for so long and had never encountered such a situation. Why would the sect master make such a decision? They couldn't understand. Could it be because of the First Elder's unreasonable pestering just now? Even so, it shouldn't be enough to make the sect master make such a decision. Instinctively, they felt that there must be a problem here. It definitely wasn't as simple as what they had just witnessed. Bailey Hongzhuang was also shocked when she heard Si Tuyen's words. She didn't expect her grandfather to take away First Elder's authority so decisively. However, to her, this was also a good thing. With First Elder around, she would undoubtedly have endless troubles. As long as First Elder lost his authority, he wouldn't be able to affect her in any way. Di Beichen completely agreed with Si Tuyen's idea. Before returning to Tiangang's sect, he already had this idea. He originally planned to take away First Elder's authority bit by bit. Once he completely took over First Elder's authority, it would be easy to deal with him. However, he needed his master's permission for this matter. After all, First Elder's status in Tiangang's sect wasn't simple. However, he didn't expect his master to make the decision before he even voiced his thoughts. Si Tuyen's expression was as calm as the wind. In a few days, he might not stay in the sect. He had to investigate Mu Lingbing's location. He could only be at ease if he rescued Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao as soon as possible. While he was away, he had to avoid any possibility of harming Hongzhuang. Obviously, the First Elder was the most uncertain factor. Sect Master, you. Gu Jingqing stared blankly at Si Tuyen. He really couldn't understand why the sect master would make such a decision. The Great Elder is currently immersed in his own personal feelings. His actions are unjust. Situ Yen explained faintly. He did not make this decision entirely out of selfishness. In fact, from the moment the First Elder started pestering Hongzhuang endlessly, he had already lost the right to be the First Elder. Hearing this, Gu Jingqing also stopped talking. He understood that what the sect master said was very reasonable. Even in other sects, the Great Elder's actions would also be punished. Palace Master Qin, Palace Master Gu, since you're here, let me tell you some good news. A smile appeared on Si Tuyen's face. He had known Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing for many years. They were very good friends. Now that there was such a good thing, he naturally wouldn't avoid it. As Si Tuyen's voice fell, Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing's eyes lit up. Their gazes drifted between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. They already had a certain guess in their hearts. Chapter 1741. However, when Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing heard Si Tuyen's next words, they could not help but freeze on the spot. They stared at Si Tuyen in a daze, wondering if they had heard wrongly. That was because the news was too unbelievable. Hongzhuang is my long-lost maternal granddaughter. Si Tuyen's face was filled with a joyful smile. His dark eyes lost some of their seriousness and dignity and were filled with happiness and joy from the bottom of his heart. This was the happiest thing for him. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing looked at each other. They really thought that they had heard wrongly. However, when they saw the astonished look in the other party's eyes, they understood that they had not heard wrongly. Everything they had heard was true. Bailey Hongzhuang is the sect master's granddaughter. Gu Jingqing could not help but raise his voice and ask again. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Si Tuyen also knew how shocking this news was and continued, "That's right, you didn't hear wrongly. Hongzhuang is my maternal granddaughter. How can this be?" Qin Ai stared at Si Tuyen in disbelief. He had never seen any woman by the sect master's side. How could he suddenly have a maternal granddaughter? This was simply impossible. However, just as Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing were feeling suspicious, their gazes suddenly landed on the love-testing stone which was shining with a golden light. They were no strangers to the love-testing stone and naturally understood the meaning behind the golden light that was flashing from it. The golden light was a sign of family. At that moment, Qin Ai and Si Tuyen suddenly understood. It turns out that the sect master's earlier statement about being busy was not an excuse at all. He really was busy. The sect master was busy conducting a blood test with Bailey Hongzhuang to confirm the relationship between the two. However, at this critical moment, the great elder had repeatedly caused trouble. Anyone else would be in an incomparably terrible mood. It seems that the great elder has really bumped into the muzzle of a gun this time. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing felt helpless. The great elder could only blame his own bad luck for having come to this stage. If this had happened at a different time, perhaps things would not have developed to this stage. However, on second thought, so what if the first elder didn't come just now? Bailey Hongzhuang was the grandfather of the sect leader. How could the first elder gain any advantage from Bailey Hongzhuang? He was just asking to be humiliated. The two men's hearts had been completely filled with Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. This was really too unbelievable. Bailey Hongzhuang was just a cultivator from a small empire. If the young sect master had not been forced to go to Fengbo country, they would not have been able to see Hongzhuang. However, now that everything was connected, Bailey Hongzhuang actually had such an amazing identity. It was really amazing. The next moment, Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang differently. Today, Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer a disciple of Tiangang's sect, nor was she the fiancée of the young sect master. Instead, she was the beloved daughter of the sect master. This identity, even the original Han Shiling could not be compared to her. Because Han Shiling was only the great elder's granddaughter while Bailey Hongzhuang was the sect master's maternal granddaughter. Congratulations, sect master. Congratulations, Lady Bailey. Chapter 1742. Sect leader, this is truly predestined. I never thought that Lady Bailey, the young sect leader's sweetheart, would turn out to be your granddaughter. Qin Ai narrowed his eyes and his face was full of smiles. This was truly a joyous matter. He had known the sect leader for so many years and had always known that the sect leader had a sweetheart when he was young. However, due to various reasons, they did not end up together. Regarding this, he only felt that it was a pity. A heroic figure like the sect leader should not have encountered such a situation. He never thought that the sect leader already had a granddaughter. This meant that the sect leader also had a daughter. This was truly shocking. That's right. Everything in this world is truly a coincidence. Si Tuyen sighed faintly. Now that he recalled everything, he also felt that it was somewhat unbelievable. If he had not talked about the past with Bewitching over wine, he was afraid that until now, he would not have known that Hongzhuang was his granddaughter. All of this was arranged by the heavens. The heavens are destined to let the sect leader and Lady Bailey recognize each other. Gu Jingqing's smile was sincere. This was truly a joyous matter for the Tiangang sect. As such, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were simply a match made in heaven. One was the sect leader's long-lost granddaughter while the other was the disciple that the sect leader was proud of. The combination of the two was undoubtedly the best. He believed that once this news spread, no one would doubt that Bailey Hongzhuang and the young sect leader were not compatible. This was because the two of them were extremely compatible in terms of status and other aspects. Sect leader, such a joyous matter as finding your granddaughter should be celebrated properly. Coincidentally, we can also let others know about Lady Bailey's true identity. Qin Ai thought for a moment before he slowly spoke up. The sect leader had found his granddaughter. This was an extremely important matter. Only by solemnly spreading this news would Bailey Hongzhuang be able to clear her name. She was not a cultivator from a small empire. She was a pearl covered in dust. Hearing Qin Ai's suggestion, Situ Yen raised his right hand and stopped Qin Ai's thoughts. It's not time yet. When the time comes, it won't be too late for you to prepare everything. Now, I will only tell the two of you this information. You must not leak this information out. Situ Yen warned in a serious tone. There was no problem in revealing Hongzhuang's identity. However, he was worried that once this news spread, Yu Siqing would immediately find out. That would be extremely disadvantageous for Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao. Hearing Situ Yan's warning, doubt surfaced in Qin Ai's and Gu Jingqing's eyes. Then, they nodded seriously. Don't worry, sect leader. We will definitely not leak this news. Si Tian nodded slightly and looked at Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing with satisfaction. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing were his trusted aides. The reason why he chose to tell them about this matter now was to make Hongzhuang's cultivation in Tiangang's sect smoother. I may not be in Tiangang's sect for the next period of time. Help me take care of Hongzhuang. Situ Yen said. Don't worry, sect master. We will definitely take good care of young miss. At this moment, Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing had already changed the way they addressed Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was now Tiangang sect's eldest young miss. She was truly a eldest young miss. Chapter 1743. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing understood that from today onwards, Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was no longer the same as before. In the future, they would definitely take good care of Bailey Hongzhuang. Although this news could not be leaked out for the time being, they could no longer treat Bailey Hongzhuang with the same attitude as before. Seeing Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing's attitude, Si Tian nodded in satisfaction. Whether it was Qin Ai or Gu Jingqing, they were both trustworthy elders in the sect. With the two of them and Di Beichen, Hongzhuang no longer had to worry about her days in Tiangang's sect. Sect master, since Miss's identity needs to be kept a secret for the time being, how about we address Miss as an ordinary cultivator in front of others? Gu Jingqing asked. Since they had to keep a secret, they needed to be more careful in front of others. That's how it should be. Si Tuyen spoke slowly as his gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. There were still many things that had yet to be resolved, so Hongzhuang could only suffer for the time being. After they rescued Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing, Hongzhuang's name could be righted. Sensing Si Tuyen's concerned gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Grandfather, don't worry about me. I don't care about these things. As long as I can acknowledge grandfather, this is the happiest thing for me. She didn't care about anything else. She had been living like this all these years. These false titles wouldn't affect anything. When everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang's calm appearance, they understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's words came from the bottom of her heart. She really didn't care about these things. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang like this, Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing couldn't help but sigh. Previously, they already felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament was extraordinary. She didn't seem like a cultivator from a small empire. Now that they knew Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity, they finally understood that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't an ordinary person. Most young people were vain, but this was not seen in Bailey Hongzhuang. She was indeed worthy of being the granddaughter of the sovereign. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with appreciation. His wife was always so understanding. Si Tuyen patted Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and looked at her lovingly. It was a great blessing for Si Tuyen to have such a granddaughter. After Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing understood everything, they took their leave first. The sect leader and Bailey Hongzhuang had just met, so they must have a lot to say. If they continued to stay there, they would have disturbed him. After leaving the sect master's bedroom, Qin Ai's face could not help but be filled with shock. Eldest Miss is actually the granddaughter of the sect master. This news is really amazing. Did Eldest Miss come to Tiangang's sect to recognize her relatives? Gu Jingqing thought about it and shook his head. I don't think so. If this was her motive, Eldest Miss would have already met the sect leader before the assessment competition. I believe that they haven't known about this for long. You saw the kinship testing stone just now. Hearing this, a deep light flashed across Qin Ai's eyes. That's true. Great Elder kept disturbing the sect leader and Eldest Miss reunion and even attacked outside. No wonder the sect leader was so angry. Gu Jingqing and Qin Ai looked at each other. At a time like this, they didn't have any intention of pleading for leniency for Great Elder. Chapter 1744. After Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing left, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Now that Hongzhuang and Si Tuyen had acknowledged each other, there were some things that they should tell Si Tuyen. Grandfather, I have something to tell you. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke slowly. Now that they had reached this stage, they should understand each other's situation. Si Tuyen nodded slightly and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a gentle gaze. Speak. I obtained the inheritance of the Celestial Palace's Palace Master during the assessment competition and was chosen as the successor of Limitless Palace. Therefore, I have to go to Limitless Palace to cultivate every once in a while. Bailey Hongzhuang told Si Tuyen the matter concisely. Her master was also a great help in her revenge. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, even with Si Tuyen's indifference, he couldn't help but be surprised. The successor of Limitless Palace? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Yes. She knew that anyone who heard her words would reveal a surprised expression. In fact, this matter was indeed hard to believe. At this moment, Di Beichen spoke up. Master, before returning to Tiangang's sect, Hongzhuang and I have already made a trip to Limitless Palace. You've already confirmed it? Si Tuyen's eyes flashed with wisdom and shock. He didn't have much contact with Limitless Palace, but he had a certain understanding of Yu Linfeng. As everyone knew, Yu Linfeng was a genius. When he first appeared, his strength was very impressive. To be able to obtain such a position in a short period of time, in many people's opinion, Yu Linfeng's success couldn't be replicated. However, he didn't expect that Yu Linfeng was actually Hongzhuang's master. What surprised him the most was that Yu Linfeng actually chose Hongzhuang as his successor and wanted to hand over Limitless Palace to Hongzhuang. This was really shocking. I've already confirmed it. The Palace Master and Madam of Limitless Palace are very fond of Hongzhuang. They also know about Hongzhuang's background and are willing to help Hongzhuang. Di Beichen's expression was serious. This matter was no small matter. He had some doubts before, but after returning from Limitless Palace, these doubts no longer existed. Although Si Tuyen was very shocked, he also knew that since Di Beichen and Hongzhuang had said so, it proved that everything was true. I see. Si Tuyen looked at Tuyen was surprised, he didn't expect that Hongzhuang would have such an ability. It was beyond his expectations. Our Hongzhuang is really different. As far as I know, the Palace Master of Limitless Palace has always been a strict person. Ordinary cultivators can't enter his eyes at all. Hongzhuang can pass his assessment and become the successor of Limitless Palace. It can be seen that he is very satisfied with Hong Zhuang. Si Tuyen's eyes were full of praise and expectation. In fact, he also thought that Hong Zhuang was very outstanding, whether it was her personality, character, or talent. Although he hadn't taken care of Hong Zhuang for so many years, Hong Zhuang still grew to such an extent. It made him feel guilty and gratified at the same time. Bewitching's face was also filled with a proud smile. Hong Zhuang had always been a wife that he was proud of. No matter how others saw her, in his heart, no woman in the world could be compared to her. It seems that the relationship between our Tiangang sect and Limitless Palace will be getting closer in the future. Chapter 1745. Listening to Si Tuyen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's faces revealed a joyful smile. Now that the situation was getting better and better, they only felt that their hopes were getting bigger and bigger. However, Si Tuyen couldn't help but frown after thinking for a while. He had a question that he couldn't understand. Logically speaking, if Palace Master Yu knew about Hong Zhuang's identity, he shouldn't have chosen to help Hong Zhuang. After all, this would put Limitless Palace in an awkward situation. As the sect master of Tiangang's sect, Si Tuyen understood the thoughts of ordinary sect masters very well. If there wasn't enough reason, they would definitely not put the sect in danger. Now that Yu Clan and Lan Clan were their opponents, if they really fought, once Yu Clan and Lan Clan joined forces, even if Tiangang's sect stepped in, it would be difficult to resist. Now that Hong Zhuang had expressed her attitude, Limitless Palace was willing to join forces with Tiangang's sect to deal with Lan Clan and Yu Clan. In this kind of situation where both sides were competing, no one could say for sure who would be the final winner. What kind of reason did Limitless Palace Master choose to help Hong Zhuang? This was really too incomprehensible. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes changed slightly. She was very clear that with Si Tuyen's wisdom, it was impossible for her to hide anything. Grandfather, back then, the rainbow divine pearl in my body was snatched away and integrated into Lan Qingyan's body. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Si Tuyen's eyes couldn't help but be filled with a hint of ruthlessness. This was the biggest pain in his heart. At that time, Hong Zhuang was still a baby in swaddling clothes. He was very clear about the danger of a baby in swaddling clothes suddenly having her dantian broken and the rainbow divine pearl forcibly taken out. Under such circumstances, it was already a relief that Hong Zhuang could live until now. Yu Xiqing was really too vicious. She could even do this to a baby in swaddling clothes. It was simply unbearable. Right now, he only felt that Yu Xiqing was not fit to be called a human. That woman was simply a vicious and merciless beast. He, Si Tuyen, swore that he would let Yu Manlan and Lan Qingyan know the price they had to pay for attacking his daughter and granddaughter. However, what Bailey Hongzhuang said next stunned Si Tuyen. Master gave me a 7-colored divine pearl. Right now, I already have one in my body. Bailey Hongzhuang had a clear and bright smile on her face. In the past, she had never thought that she would be able to obtain the rainbow divine pearl again. Her master had really given her too much hope. As soon as these words came out, Si Tuyen's eyes suddenly froze, and his expression revealed a bit of surprise and uncertainty. He wondered if he had heard wrongly. In the next moment, the origin energy in Bailey Hongzhuang's body surged, and a 7-colored radiance emerged from her hand. The lively 7-colored radiance was like a swimming fish jumping in Bailey Hongzhuang's palm, and a tyrannical aura spread out from it. Looking at this 7-colored radiance, Si Tuyen's surprise slowly turned into horror. This is really 7-colored energy. He had a certain understanding of the Lan family's mysterious inheritance, the rainbow divine pearl. This was the 7-colored origin energy that only the owner of the rainbow divine pearl would have. Just by sensing it slightly, he could feel that this origin energy was much stronger than ordinary origin energy. Chapter 1746. How did you fuse it? At this time, Si Tuyen was not most concerned about the power of the rainbow origin energy. He was more worried about how Hong Zhuang had fused with it. Back then, her dantian had been forcefully broken open to take out the rainbow pearl. As a result, Hong Zhuang had been a cripple for so many years and could not cultivate. He did not know how Hong Zhuang had been able to cultivate again, but it must have been a painful process. Now, how did Hong Zhuang fuse with the rainbow pearl? Could it be that she had broken open her dantian again and put the rainbow pearl in? Si Tuyen didn't dare to continue thinking about it because it was too shocking. Looking at Si Tuyen's shocked expression, Bailey Hongzhuang had already guessed Si Tuyen's thoughts. She immediately explained, "Grandfather, it was Master who thought of a way to help me fuse without breaking my dantian. Only her master knew the specific method." At that time, she was almost immersed in pain and did not pay attention to how her master did it. Hearing that, Si Tuyen breathed a sigh of relief. However, the shock in his heart could not be eliminated. No matter what method was used, it must be an extremely painful process to fuse a rainbow pearl into one's body. As cultivators, they were very clear about the use of the dantian. Once something unfamiliar entered one's dantian, it would definitely cause great pain, let alone fusing a rainbow pearl into one's body. Hong Zhuang did not break her dantian and directly fused with it. This was probably even more painful than breaking her dantian. At this moment, Si Tuyen understood why Bailey Hongzhuang's strength had increased so much during the assessment. Even if Hong Zhuang had obtained an opportunity, she had also suffered pain that ordinary people could not bear. He couldn't imagine the pain he was going through. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was smiling brightly and relaxed, Si Tuyen felt even more heartache. His granddaughter was too strong. The pain she had suffered along the way was simply shocking. Originally, none of this should have happened. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a gaze full of heartache. He was even more clear about the hardships his wife had gone through to get to where she was now. However, many people still doubted his wife. Si Tuyen's heart was extremely complicated, but he did not reveal it. He would make it up to his daughter and granddaughter one by one in the coming days. Palace Master Yu actually has the rainbow pearl. She even knows the method to fuse with it. Si Tuyen spoke slowly as his eyes flashed with wisdom. Yu Linfeng know the method that even the Lan family did not know. This showed how much Yu Linfeng understood the rainbow pearl. This was too strange. As far as I know, Palace Master Yu's cultivators, Di Beichen, Tuyen's granddaughter. The limitless Palace Master hated the Lan clan. This was a publicly known secret in the cultivation world. Although they didn't say it out loud, everyone understood in their hearts. In that case, Palace Master Yu still accepted Hong Zhuang as his disciple and helped her take revenge. Could it be that they both resented the Lan family? After thinking about this, Si Tuyen had an epiphany. Perhaps, this was the reason why Palace Master Yu was so determined to help Hong Zhuang. Di Beichen's eyes also flashed with doubt. This was something that he had never understood. He always felt that there were other factors involved, but he could not figure out what it was. He was helpless. Chapter 1747. A few years ago, I heard that Palace Master Yu hated the Lan family so much because he had a grudge with the Lan family in the past and he was a member of the Lan family back then. Si Tuyen had a complicated look in his eyes. As the news was too shocking, he had never forgotten about it. However, he had never delved into it. Everyone had their own secrets and experiences. There was no need for them to dig it out forcefully as it was meaningless. Now that he knew about Hong Zhuang, he felt that the news might be true. It was precisely because Hong Zhuang and Palace Master Yu were both treated unfairly by the Lan family that Palace Master Yu was so determined to help Hong Zhuang. Hearing Si Tuyen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned for a moment. She never thought that her grandfather would have heard of such a rumor. The truth was just as her grandfather had guessed. However, she could not say it out loud. At least, she could not say it out loud without her master's permission. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with shock. He never thought that Palace Master Yu would be a member of the Lan family. If Palace Master Yu is a member of the Lan family, then everything makes sense. Di Beichen quickly understood that there was such a story behind it. He was afraid that Palace Master Yu and Hong Zhuang were in the same boat. If that was the case, then it was not strange that Palace Master Yu would help Hong Zhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang did not say much. It was her grandfather's guess. With her grandfather's wisdom and the rumors he had heard before, it was not strange for him to guess this. There was no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. It seemed that her master did not plan to keep this secret forever. He was just unwilling to talk about it. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel puzzled. What kind of attitude did the Lan family have towards her master? Si Tuyen and Di Beichen did not say much about this matter. It was enough for them to know that Limitless Palace was their ally. Hong Zhuang, you and Beichen have been running around for so many days. You must be tired. Rest well, Si Tuyen said with concern. Ever since Hong Zhuang came out of the competition, she had been running all over the place and hadn't had a good rest. Now that everything was finally settled, it was time to have a good rest. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded, okay. As for Bailey Hongzhuang's residence, Si Tuyen decided to let Hongzhuang stay in Di Beichen's palace first. Di Beichen's palace was very big, and there were many rooms. Moreover, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang had already gotten married in Feng Bo country a few years ago. On the other hand, Di Beichen's palace had a cultivation room. If Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen cultivated together in the room, the speed of their cultivation would be very fast. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen left the palace, Si Tuyen couldn't help but reveal a smile. He never thought that he would have a daughter and a granddaughter. Now that he had acknowledged Hong Zhuang, he felt an indescribable satisfaction. The most important thing now was to rescue Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao. However, there was an even bigger question in his heart. Since Mu Lingbing was his daughter, then where did Jin Se go? Until now, he had no news of Jin Se. Chapter 1748. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked out of the sect master's quarters and returned to Di Beichen's place. Both of them were in a very good mood. This was the result that they had hoped to see, and it did not disappoint them. Wife, I never thought that you would really be Master's granddaughter. I suddenly feel that all of this has been arranged by the heavens. A joyful smile appeared on Di Beichen's handsome face. Under the golden rays of the sun, his smile sparkled. From the time he had gone to Feng Bo country and fell in love with Hong Zhuang, to now that they had stayed in Tiangang's sect and discovered the connection between his master and Hong Zhuang, as long as there was a problem in all of this, it would be impossible for Hong Zhuang and his master to acknowledge each other. However, despite so many problems, they had still managed to make it one step at a time. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a gentle and beautiful smile. That's right, all of this is a little unbelievable. Now, her emotions were even more profound than Di Beichen's. She felt that even the matter of her transmigration might have been arranged by the heavens. Otherwise, Bailey Hongzhuang would have died long ago and all of this would have been lost. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand, his eyes filled with deep affection and gentleness. Wife, let's get married after we rescue my in-laws. What do you think? He loved Hong Zhuang too much and only wished that he could tell everyone that Hong Zhuang was his wife. Furthermore, there was still Mo Yinjue eyeing them covetously from the side. He had to quickly declare his sovereignty. Looking at Di Beichen's passionate and sincere look, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile. However, she thought for a while and said, "We still don't know if my parents are satisfied with you. If they aren't, then we don't know. I'm so outstanding, how could my in-laws not be satisfied?" Di Beichen raised his handsome brows and his incomparably handsome face was filled with confidence. Don't shout so happily. It's not time yet. Bailey Hongzhuang glared at Di Beichen, but the smile in her eyes deepened. You are my wife. Naturally, they are my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Do you still want to deny it? Di Beichen narrowed his eyes and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang threateningly. He wouldn't give his wife any chance to escape. That depends on whether you treat me well or not. If you don't treat me well, The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a delicate and proud smile. She let go of Di Beichen's hand and walked into the house. However, the moment Bailey Hongzhuang entered the room, Di Beichen followed her. Dong! Di Beichen pressed one hand against the wall and locked Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms. The corners of his lips curled into a devilish and seductive smile. Wife, what did you just say? I said, Before Bailey Hongzhuang could say anything, Di Beichen's handsome face quickly enlarged in front of her eyes. His warm breath hit her face and she felt a warm touch on her lips. Di Beichen kissed Bailey Hongzhuang's lips. The rich sweetness made it hard for him to extricate himself. After a while, Di Beichen looked at the blushing Bailey Hongzhuang and asked, Wife, are you still going to run? Run, Bailey Hongzhuang had only uttered a single syllable when Di Beichen kissed her again. It seemed that his wife didn't know the consequences of saying such things. Bailey Hongzhuang felt her heart pounding and her face burning. She felt dizzy. Chapter 1749. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Di Beichen in front of her. His handsome face was like a blooming epiphyllum, and his beautiful lips were slightly raised into a seductive and sexy arc. A pair of deep, pitch-black eyes flickered with a bright and resplendent light, as dazzling as glass. And in those eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang saw deep affection and banter. Obviously, Di Beichen was deliberately teasing her. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen indignantly. Di Beichen was forcing her to do this. The situation just now was very good proof of this point. If she dared to say the word run again, Di Beichen would definitely punish her in the same way again. After thinking about it, Bailey Hongzhuang could only admit defeat. I won't run. Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her lips and said. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's blushing little face and only felt that she was even more charming. At this moment, her small mouth was pursed, and the lips that he had kissed were slightly red and swollen, looking even more sparkling and seductive. Looking at Hongzhuang like this, Di Beichen only felt that it was really tempting to commit a crime. In the next moment, under Bailey Hongzhuang's astonished gaze, Di Beichen's lips covered hers again. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Di Beichen with her eyes wide open. There was only one thought in her mind, Di Beichen is a liar. Di Beichen's kiss was warm and gentle, and Bailey Hongzhuang was also immersed in Di Beichen's kiss. Until Di Beichen let go of Bailey Hongzhuang blushed and said, You're shameless, I already said that I won't run, you still. Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang and said with a smile, My wife is too seductive, your husband can't control himself. Following Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's face quickly turned red, and only felt that her ears and face were boiling hot. You, in the face of Di Beichen's straightforward words, she really didn't know what to say. Di Beichen's eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Facing such a lovely wife, he really felt that his entire heart was full. My wife, you're so cute. Di Beichen's face was full of smiles. Hongzhuang usually looked orderly and could deal with anything, but as long as he flirted with her, Hongzhuang could only be captured without putting up a fight. Such a wife was really cute. Bailey Hongzhuang wrinkled her little nose and angrily glared at Di Beichen, like a little wife who had been wronged. You only know how to act shamelessly. I didn't. Di Beichen spread out his hands, looking innocent and natural. Flirting with my wife is my husband's responsibility. You. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen with shame and indignation. The guy in front of her was clearly a shameless person. Di Beichen winked at Bailey Hongzhuang, but the devilish smile on his lips gradually widened. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a wave of frustration. In this aspect, she really wasn't Di Beichen's opponent. At this moment, there was a knock on the door outside the house. Young master. Hei Mu stood outside the house with the three beasts and called out. Hearing Hei Mu's voice, Di Beichen said, Come in. Creak. The door opened, and Hei Mu and the three beasts walked in together. Young master, there's a letter for you. Hei Mu handed a letter to Di Beichen. This letter was from Shirtian Pavilion. Previously, young master had told him that if Shirtian Pavilion had a reply, he must give it to young master as soon as possible. Chapter 1750. After Mu handed the letter to Bewitching, his gaze, like the three beasties, stopped on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. They saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's face was unnaturally red, and it had yet to fade. They could even smell the unusual ambiguity in the air. It seemed that they had come at the wrong time. Mu's expression was a little awkward. He didn't want to disturb the young master and young madam. His gaze couldn't help but fall on Bewitching. Mu looked at the young master carefully, hoping that the young master wouldn't be angry because of his interruption. Otherwise, he would. The three beasties also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang ambiguously. Other than when Bewitching was around, they had never seen their master blush. Obviously, something unusual must have happened just now. Their master's lips also seemed to be more swollen than usual. Thinking of this, the three beasties couldn't help but laugh. He. Noticing the three beasties' mischievous smiles, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was awkward. However, she still pretended to be serious and stared at the three beasties. Faced with Bailey Hongzhuang's pretense, the three beasties didn't fall for it at all. Just looking at their master's blushing face, this seriousness was no longer intimidating. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang felt even more helpless. It's over. Her image is completely ruined. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but stare at Bewitching. However, Bewitching's expression was natural, as if nothing had happened. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang really couldn't help but admire Bewitching's thick skin. No matter what this man did in the last second, he could always quickly return to normal in the next second, as if nothing had happened. On the other hand, her expression had already exposed everything. It seemed that her skin still needed more training. You guys can leave first. Bewitching's expression was indifferent and calm as he glanced at Mu. Yes. Mu hurriedly responded. After knowing that he had disturbed the young master and young madam, he couldn't wait to leave. Now that he heard the young master's words, he felt a burst of joy. However, the three beasts were somewhat unwilling to leave. On the one hand, they were very curious about the outcome of their master's visit to the sect leader's chamber. On the other hand, it was rare for them to have the opportunity to laugh at their master, so they didn't want to miss it. The expressions of the three beasties did not escape Bewitching's eyes. Bewitching continued, "Bring Baisher and the rest to try our Tiangang sect specialty dishes." As soon as this was said, the three beasts' faces were immediately dyed with a touch of excitement. Delicious. This was their greatest hobby. They still don't know what special dishes Tiangang sect has, but such a big sect, its special dishes must not be bad. In the next instant, the three beasts leaped onto Mu's body. They looked like they couldn't wait for Mu to take them away. Seeing the speed at which the three beasts changed their expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang felt helpless. Bewitching had completely grasped the lifeblood of the three beasts. Using food to bribe them was definitely not wrong. Yes. Mu bowed respectfully and immediately led the three beasts out. After the door was closed, Mu couldn't help but sigh in relief. Chapter 1751. After Mu and the others left, Bailey Hongzhuang supported her head with one hand, her eyes locked on Bewitching's face. "My wife, do you think that your husband is too handsome, so you can't take your eyes off me?" Bewitching's lips curled into an evil and charming smile. His starry eyes also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. "I'm thinking, how did you train your thick skin?" When she first met Bewitching, she should have known that this man's strength in this aspect was shocking. And now, as she understood more and more, her feelings also became more and more profound. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's helpless expression, the smile in Bewitching's eyes gradually deepened. He moved closer to Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "My wife, do you want to know?" "Yes." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Di Baichen blinked his charming eyes. His expression was serious and seductive. This also requires talent. Pfft, hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but break down. Such a man seriously told her that being thick-skinned also required talent. This was really not shameful, but proud. Di Baichen looked at the letter in his hand. His incomparably handsome face put away the joking expression, and a touch of seriousness appeared. Noticing the change in Di Baichen's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask, "Whose letter is it?" "Shirtian Tower." Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression also changed a little. She knew that Di Baichen had issued a task to Shirtian Tower. Presumably, this was Mo Yinjue's reply. Di Baichen opened the letter and looked at the contents of the letter. The content was very simple. There were only 2 words, "as soon as possible." Di Baichen was not surprised when he saw the content. He had already guessed Mo Yinjue's answer. However, from the words "as soon as possible," it could be seen that Mo Yinjue was serious about this matter. Normally, Shirtian Pavilion's response was not like this. Presumably, Mo Yinjue had already sent cultivators to investigate this matter as soon as possible. With the information network of the Heaven Slaughter Pavilion, once they sped up, it would not take long for them to find out the results of the investigation. Bailey Hongzhuang also saw the contents of the letter. It was Mo Yinjue's handwriting. She couldn't help but feel touched. All this time, Di Baichen had helped her a lot, but she had never done anything for Mo Yinjue. Now, Mo Yinjue was still helping her investigate the location of her parents' imprisonment. She must thank Mo Yinjue properly in the future. However, she also knew that her gratitude was meaningless. She only hoped that Mo Yinjue could find his happiness. Shirtian Pavilion has already accepted this task. I think it won't be long before we know the answer. Di Baichen said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The Yu clan has kept this information extremely secret. Even if Shirtian Pavilion investigates, I'm afraid it will be difficult to find out in a short time. After she and her grandfather recognized each other, she felt more and more that Yu Siqing was a terrifying woman. With Yu Siqing's meticulous and vicious character, the location of her imprisonment must be extremely secretive. It would be extremely difficult to find it. However, she was still full of confidence in Shirtian Pavilion. With Shirtian Pavilion's ability, they will definitely find out. I will inform Master later. We should also prepare early. Chapter 1752. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Okay. Currently, they only had one goal, and that was to rescue her parents. Recalling how she had been all alone in the past and how she now had so many helpers, her heart was filled with emotion. The Yu family. In a dark and dirty dungeon. 2 figures were imprisoned by crosses and their hands and feet were cuffed in chains. Their clothes were in a sorry state and the bloodstains on their bodies had already turned black, emitting an unpleasant smell. Their hair was disheveled and mixed with sweat that scattered on their faces, making it difficult to see them clearly. However, if one looked carefully, they would notice that the man and woman's appearances were extremely outstanding. Despite their sorry state and pale complexions, it still couldn't conceal their peerless charm. Dong dong dong. A voice came from above. When they heard this voice, the 2 of them opened their eyes. Their indifferent expressions were filled with disgust. A yellow figure appeared before the 2 of them. It was Yu Siqing. Yu Siqing slowly walked to them with a sinister and cold smile on her face. Mu Lingbing, your father came to find me a few days ago. Hearing this, the imprisoned woman's expression couldn't help but change. She coldly looked at Yu Siqing but didn't say anything. This abominable woman would torment her and Yun Shao whenever she was unhappy all these years. After so many years, she had gradually gotten used to it. Even the pain in her body couldn't withstand her numb heart. Normally, no matter how Yu Siqing provoked her, she wouldn't have any reaction. However, after hearing news about her father, she couldn't help but be moved. Lan Yunxiao looked at Yu Siqing with a deep gaze. This despicable and vicious woman. If possible, he really wanted to kill her. Noticing Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao's hateful gazes, Yu Xiqing's smile gradually widened. She just loved to see Mu Lingbing's pained expression. Don't look at me like that. This is all Mu Jin's fault. If she hadn't given birth to you, you wouldn't have fallen into my hands and gotten injured. Yu Xiqing chuckled and turned to look at Lan Yunxiao. Lan Yunxiao, you're really pitiful. If you hadn't married Mu Lingbing, you would still be the Lan family's glorious patriarch. How could you have fallen to such a state? Mu Lingbing couldn't help but look at Lan Yunxiao, her pitch-black eyes filled with guilt. Over the years, she had always regretted that she had dragged Yunxiao down. If it weren't for her, how could Yunxiao have fallen to such a state? Originally, she had thought that all of this was an undeserved calamity that had occurred out of nowhere. However, it was only after she had been imprisoned by Yu Xiqing that she realized that all of this was a plot against her. Yu Xiqing, don't speak nonsense. A hoarse and deep voice rang out. The prolonged dryness caused the voice to sound exceptionally ear-piercing. Lan Yunxiao coldly looked at Yu Xiqing. This woman would always say things from time to break their hearts. Once they were defeated, that was what Yu Xiqing wanted to see the most. However, he would not let Yu Xiqing succeed. From the beginning to the end, he had never regretted being together with Ling Bing. He also didn't feel that Ling Bing had dragged him down. Even if he could start over again, he would still choose to be with Ling Bing. However, if he could start over again, he wouldn't let Ling Bing suffer like this again. Chapter 1753. Lan Yunxiao looked at Mu Lingbing. He didn't say anything, but his eyes said it all. From start to finish, he had never regretted it. Mu Lingbing's eyes sparkled when she met Lan Yunxiao's gaze. She couldn't remember how many years they had been imprisoned here, but it was an incomparably long time. But from start to finish, Lan Yunxiao had never shown the slightest bit of regret. Even after enduring all this torture, Lan Yunxiao still loved her deeply. She, Mu Lingbing, truly felt that being able to be with Lan Yunxiao in this lifetime was her greatest happiness. When Yu Xiqing saw how deeply in love Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were, her eyes couldn't help but darken. Hatred rose in her heart. She didn't understand what was so good about Mu Jin's that could make Si Tuyen yearn for her all these years. And now, her daughter was the same as her. There was clearly nothing good about her, but Lan Yunxiao was so deeply in love with her. An indescribable feeling of unwillingness spread in her heart. She wanted to destroy all of this. Si Tuyen came to ask me if you were his daughter. Yu Xiqing's lips curled up. Ever since that incident, she hadn't seen Si Tuyen again. She didn't expect to see him again a few days ago. His facial features hadn't changed much from before, but they were dyed with the vicissitudes of life and added a bit of maturity. The man she used to like so much was stolen away by that slut, Mu Jin's. She was the one who liked Si Tuyen first, but now they were together. She couldn't accept it. As long as she wanted something, she would never allow it to be taken away by others. She would rather destroy everything than watch them live happily ever after. She wanted Si Tuyen and Mu Jin's to know that it was their biggest mistake to fall in love with each other. Mu Lingbing's gaze changed as it locked onto Yu Xiqing. She had always thought she was an orphan and didn't know who her birth parents were. She had been raised by her master since she was young. Her master had always been very good to her and treated her like her own daughter. She also treated her master as her family. It wasn't until she was imprisoned by Yu Xiqing that she learned about her past from Yu Xiqing. So, master was her mother. She didn't believe Yu Xiqing's words at first, but after Yu Xiqing told her about the grudge between her and her master, she felt that it might be true. After so many years, she had already confirmed that this was the truth. She had never thought that her father would be the sect master of Tiangang's sect. It turned out that she wasn't an orphan at all. Her mother had always been by her side. It was only because of some grievances and misunderstandings that they didn't get together. She vaguely remembered that sometimes, her master would stare at a place in a daze, his expression lonely and sad. His master had always been outstanding, and she had countless suitors. However, ever since she was young, she had never seen her master walk in with any man. It wasn't until she was imprisoned that she realized that there was someone else in her master's heart. Bewitching did not hide what had happened back then from them. Instead, she spoke of it in a nostalgic manner. She finally understood that her father and mother had separated because of a misunderstanding, and all of this was because of Bewitching. His mother's sadness and loneliness for so many years was unnecessary. Chapter 1754. To Mu Lingbing, she had never hated a woman so bitterly and never thought that a woman could be so vicious. Mu Jin's is truly foolish to have left just like that. She hasn't seen Situ Yen for so many years. However, I want them to continue with this misunderstanding and regret for the rest of their lives. That's the situation I want to see the most. Bewitching's smile grew even more malevolent. After so many years, Situ Yen had only just found out that he had a daughter. Come to think of it, this wasn't just the typical feeling of regret and sorrow. Back then, Situ Yen had caused her so much grief and now, she was finally returning it all to him. However, this wasn't enough. She was only halfway through. In the coming days, she wanted Situ Yen to be filled with endless regret and even shed tears of regret in front of her. She was stronger than Mu Jin's in every way. You're too despicable. Mu Lingbing's gaze was cold and disdainful as she stared at Bewitching. She had never seen such a deranged woman. She felt that this woman had been possessed and had put all her energy and time into revenge. Seeing them suffer was the happiest thing for Bewitching. I'm despicable. Bewitching raised her voice and her expression grew even more malevolent and agitated. Mu Jin's is the despicable one. I've already told her that Situ Yen is my sweetheart. She clearly knew that, yet she still wanted to steal my sweetheart. If she's not despicable, then what is? Bewitching was furious. She hated women like Mu Jin's who pretended to be innocent the most. Then do you think it's all good for you to do such a thing to your friend? Lan Yunxiao's eyes were gloomy and cold. This woman in front of him had been blinded by hatred. However, he could also see Bewitching's feelings for the sect master. Otherwise, Bewitching wouldn't still be alone after so many years. She wouldn't have put all her energy into this matter. However, when he thought about it carefully, regardless of whether it was his father-in-law, mother-in-law, or Bewitching, they had never walked out of this relationship. In reality, there was no such thing as snatching or not snatching. Even if his mother-in-law didn't exist, his father-in-law didn't like Bewitching and this fact wouldn't change. It was just that Bewitching wasn't willing to admit it. However, this woman was so deranged and vicious that no man would like her. Friend? Bewitching sneered, I've never treated her as a friend. I saw that Situ Yen was interested in Mu Jin, so I wanted to get closer to Situ Yen. However, Mu Jin's actually dared to be together with Situ Yen. This woman is destined to pay the price. Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao were speechless after hearing Bewitching's words. This woman was simply unreasonable. She was clearly the one in the wrong from the beginning to the end, but she wanted to push all the blame onto someone else. How laughable. Since Situ Yen knows that you are her daughter, do you think he will come to save you? Bewitching's lips curled into a playful smile. This game was getting more and more fun. Ever since she left Tiangang's sect, Situ Yen had never appeared in front of her again. From now on, she believed that Situ Yen would constantly appear in front of her. Chapter 1755. Mu Lingbing's eyes lit up. If her father could really come and save her, would she have a chance to see the light of day again? She had been locked up in the dungeon for more than a decade and her life was worse than death. However, she and Yun Xiao had never given up because there was still a trace of obsession in their hearts. They were very clear that the possibility of leaving this place was extremely small, but they were still unwilling to give up. A miracle was a possibility within the impossible. Even if their persistence was meaningless, they still couldn't give up. Back then, they had left their infant daughter in Fengbo country. At that time, she had been so weak. Now, they didn't know how their daughter was doing. Thinking of this, they felt abnormally anxious. Noticing the change in Mu Lingbing's expression, the smile in Yu Siqing's eyes deepened. After so many years, you still haven't given up. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao only coldly stared at Yu Siqing. I'll tell you the truth. I've fed you many poisons these years. If I wasn't here, you would only have a path to death. Yu Siqing pitifully looked at Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao, feeling that these two fellows were really pitiful. Who told them to fall into her hands? Once they fell into her hands, they were destined to have a tragic ending. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao's eyes darkened and their hearts couldn't help but sink. All these years, Yu Siqing had completely treated them as shao by mice for her experiments. Every time Yu Siqing developed a special poison, she would let them try it. Under the influence of various poisons, they suffered unspeakably. Their greatest wish in this life was to be able to see each other again. If they hadn't taken good care of Yi Xian back then, giving Lan Jinghuang and his family an opportunity, Yi Xian wouldn't have fallen into such a state. This was the regret of their lives. As her parents, they didn't take good care of Yi Xian and instead allowed her to fall into such danger. This was originally something that Yi Xian shouldn't have to endure and was the greatest pain in their lives. Even though they had already thought of all sorts of methods back then, they didn't know if Yi Xian could survive. However, they didn't let anyone know of this news. With Yu Siqing's deranged nature, if she learned of this matter, it would be difficult for Yi Xian to escape this calamity. In reality, they were more worried that Yi Xian had already perished more than 10 years ago. At that time, Yi Xian was merely an infant in swaddling clothes. Having her dantian forcefully broken open by someone, this could be said to be a fatal injury. Sometimes, they felt that they might not be able to get out, but they still had a glimmer of hope in their hearts. Prepare to die here for the rest of your lives. Ha ha ha. Yu Siqing gave Mu Lingbing a mocking look before leaving the dungeon. She was looking forward to how things would unfold. After Yu Siqing left, Mu Lingbing's heart sank to the bottom. This woman is really abnormal. Seeing Mu Lingbing's disheartened appearance, Lan Yunxiao comforted her. Lingbing, don't mind what she said. She just wants to see us disappointed and in pain. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing nodded. Even though she had been tortured by Yu Siqing, she was not willing to let her have her way. Chapter 1756. No matter what, the situation has taken a turn for the better. The sect master knows of your identity. A smile spread across Lan Yunxiao's pale and handsome face. Lingbing had once regretted not knowing about her biological parents, but now she knew everything. Since the sect master had come to find Yu Siqing to confirm this matter, it proved that he was certain of it. As long as the sect master continued to investigate, this matter would gradually become clear. Perhaps the misunderstanding between the sect master and his mother-in-law could be resolved. Mu Lingbing nodded slightly. Her dark eyes were sparkling. At least her father finally knew of her existence. Yun Xiao, do you think Yishuan is still alive? Mu Lingbing raised her head to look at Lan Yunxiao, her pale and beautiful face filled with helplessness. She no longer cared about what would happen to her in the future. She was only worried that she would never have the chance to see her daughter again. From Yishuan's birth until now, they had only been together for a few short months. As a mother, she really owed her too much. Lan Yunxiao's deep and dark eyes flickered with determination. Our daughter is so strong. She will definitely live on. Although Lan Yunxiao's gaze was resolute, his tightly knitted brows still reflected his worry. Seeing Lan Yunxiao's determined appearance, Mu Lingbing's eyes brightened. Yes, she definitely will. In this life, they had failed to fulfill their responsibilities as parents. They only hoped that they could repay Yishuan in their next life. Lingbing, no matter what, we must persevere. Perhaps there will be a day when we see Yishuan again. Lan Yunxiao's gaze was deep and his voice was deep and powerful. After so many years of torture, they had persevered by relying on the conviction in their hearts. Not only did he want to see Yixuan again, but he also wanted the unconcealable hatred in his heart. Lan Jing was mad. The big brother he once respected and thought of as a good brother had done such a thing behind his back. When they got married, he had vowed to take good care of Lingbing. However, he had allowed his wife and daughter to fall into such a situation. All of this was because he had wrongly trusted others. It was his fault. He wouldn't allow himself to die like this. He hated them so much. If there was a day when he left this place, he would definitely return everything to them. If he couldn't do this, he wouldn't be able to die in peace. He once boasted that he was a distinguished and talented man who looked down on all the genius cultivators. However, the truth was that he couldn't even take good care of his own wife and daughter. The family that had supported him in the beginning had chosen to betray him after he encountered such a situation. This was the greatest pain in Lan Yinxiao's life. If you don't experience this, you will never understand how painful, hateful, and infuriating this kind of betrayal is. He was unwilling. Unwilling. Therefore, he would not give up. He would not give up until the moment of his death. After Di Baichen told Si Tu Yen that the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion had accepted the mission, Si Tu Yen was also a little surprised. Logically speaking, Shirtian Pavilion would not accept such a mission. As for why he had accepted it this time, he did not delve into it. From Di Baichen's confident attitude back then, it was obvious that there must be a reason that he did not know. Chapter 1757. At night, the three beasties returned to Bailey Hongzhuang's house. He Mu had brought them to eat a delicious meal earlier, and now, they felt extraordinarily satisfied. Burp, Baisher rubbed its round belly and burped. Today's meal was extraordinarily satisfying. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also looked satisfied. If they could live like this every day, how comfortable would that be? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the three beasties helplessly. These three fellows were really gluttons. No matter what the situation was, as long as they were eating, they would immediately be revived. Master, Tiangang's sect's food and wine are also very delicious. Xiao He's eyes shone with excitement. They would be staying in Tiangang's sect for the next few days, and this was really something to be happy about. Just by looking at Xiao He's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang already understood its thoughts. She immediately reached out a finger and poked Xiao He's head. In the future, your food problems will be solved by He Mu. I believe you will be very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. This was the result of her discussion with Di Baichen. The three beasties usually liked to follow He Mu, and He Mu already had a certain understanding of these three gluttons. If the three beasties' food problems were handed over to He Mu would probably be able to complete the task very well. Bailey Hongzhuang had already noticed that Baisher's body was constantly growing, and it probably needed a lot of nutrition and food. As a beast king, it was normal for Baisher to be able to eat. In Tiangang's sect, there were also some cultivators who had their own contract beasts, so there was a lot of food for contract beasts. She was looking forward to Baisher's appearance when he grew up. As for Xiao He and Xiao Bai, they had always been very gluttonous. Their ability to eat was not directly proportional to their body size. For this point, Bailey Hongzhuang could also understand. After all, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were not small after they grew up. Moreover, after the three beasts found out that she was going to rescue her parents, they had been working extremely hard on their cultivation. Although the three beasties seemed to have nothing else to care about other than eating, in reality, they were most concerned about her. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, the three beasties all nodded excitedly, yes. Blackwood was the easiest to bully. Every time they followed Blackwood to eat, they didn't feel any burden at all. Seeing this, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips became even brighter. Master, have you confirmed your relationship with the sect leader? Xiao Bai moved closer to Bailey Hongzhuang. This was the question that they were most concerned about. It was only because Di Baichen had asked them to leave that they left. Of course, eating was also very important. The three beasties widened their eyes and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang curiously. Long before they returned to Tiangang's sect, they were very surprised when they found out about Bewitching's conjecture. Logically speaking, it was impossible for things to be so coincidental. However, after hearing this from Bewitching, they felt more confident. The sect leader is my grandfather. Bailey Hongzhuang replied to the three beasties' questions. The three beasties were stunned when they heard this. They stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze, unable to recover from their shock for a moment. The sect leader is your grandfather? Xiao He asked again with uncertainty. Chapter 1758. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Xiao He sucked in a breath of cold air, but her eyes gradually brightened. In that case, doesn't Master have a huge backer like the Tiangang sect leader? Xiao He couldn't hide the excitement on her face. She realized that good news came one after another recently. Previously, she was still worried about Master's revenge. She didn't expect Master to become the successor of Wuji Palace and now the granddaughter of the Tiangang sect leader. Her identity was rising steadily. This is good news. Xiao Bai was equally excited. Let's see who still dares to say that Master came from a remote place. That bunch of blind fellows. Although Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care about the comments of some cultivators in Tiangang's sect, she couldn't bear to listen to it. Since Master and Bewitching appeared together in Tiangang's sect 2 years ago, there were all kinds of versions of the story. Many cultivators were rumored that Master used seductive means to get Bewitching to be with her. Thinking of this, she was furious. She never felt that Master was worse than Bewitching. The two of them were originally in love. Only those annoying fellows would say such things. Now that Master's identity was so powerful, these rumors could vanish like smoke. That's great. Baisher waved his little paws excitedly. Congratulations on reuniting with grandfather, Master. The three beasts spoke at the same time. Based on their understanding of Master, she wasn't the happiest about the change in her identity, but about reuniting with her family. Sect leader, this was the first relative that Master had reuniting with. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile gradually widened. This matter really made her happy. Master, since sect leader is really your grandfather, then all the previous grudges can be confirmed. All of this was Yu Siqing's doing. After a moment of joy, Xiao He couldn't help but frown. The person who turned Master's family upside down was Yu Siqing. If that was the case, how terrifying was this woman? His deep phoenix eyes were filled with a cold light. That's right, the root of all this is Yu Siqing. If it wasn't for Yu Siqing, this wouldn't have happened. Damn, this woman is too hateful. He's simply inhuman. Xiao Bai could not hide the anger on her face. This woman's scheming was simply shocking. If I don't kill this despicable woman, I'll be letting myself down. Bai Shi was also furious. Just because of his own selfish desires, not only had Si Tuyen and Mu Jints been separated for so many years due to a misunderstanding, he had even ruined Mu Lingbing's life. This woman was truly insane. It won't be long before I make her wish she was dead. Bailey Hongzhuang gradually clenched her fists under her sleeves. The viciousness in her eyes gradually deepened. A strong anger and resentment burned and spread in her heart. If she didn't kill this woman with her own hands, she would never be satisfied. The three beasts nodded in unison. Their eyes were filled with hatred. Once they had to face Yu Siqing head-on, not only their master, but they would also make a move to vent their anger. Master, since your maternal grandfather and parents already know, where is your maternal grandmother? Chapter 1759. Hearing Baishir's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with doubt. This was also something that she couldn't understand. They had already received news about her parents, but there was no news about her grandmother. According to Di Beichen's investigation, Mu Lingbing had appeared in public as an orphan in her early years and had been raised by the palace master of the Sun Moon Palace. This experience was exactly the same as Di Beichen's. However, they had not received any news about her grandmother. In the hearts of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, there was a faint worry. They were only worried that their grandmother had been persecuted by Yu Siqing after she left. After all, Yu Siqing was so deranged. Since she knew that Mu Lingbing was Mu Jin's daughter, she would naturally know about Mu Jin's whereabouts. Perhaps Yu Siqing had already made her move against Mu Jin's. Mu Jin's did not have any powerful backing and could not be compared to Yu Siqing of the Yu family. If she had really met with danger a long time ago, it was something that they did not wish to see. Perhaps Yu Siqing had already harmed her years ago. Xiao Hei's eyes darkened. If Mu Lingbing's mother was still alive, Mu Jin's would not have remained indifferent to the torment that Mu Lingbing had suffered all these years. She would definitely have done something. However, they had not received any news. Just from this point alone, they were able to deduce many things. I hope that's not the case. Xiao Bai sighed faintly. Although it felt that the possibility of this was very high, it hoped that it was not the case from the bottom of its heart. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the three beasts with a complicated expression. When we capture Yu Siqing in the future, we will know everything. Regarding all this, they did not have any useful information. They could only wait until they had slaughtered the Yu family to understand everything. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasts nodded. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's lives returned to normal. The two of them spent most of their time in the training room because the density of the elemental energy here was much higher than outside. Cultivating here, their speed of improvement was extremely fast. Usually, Di Beichen would spend most of his time in the training room as long as he did not have anything to do. Bailey Hongzhuang was also a cultivation maniac. She only hoped that she could increase her strength as quickly as possible. This way, she would be able to get closer to the day she wanted to achieve her goal. After understanding Bailey Hongzhuang's training, Di Beichen understood how Hongzhuang had improved in the past 2 years of the great competition, with Yu Yang, with Yu Siqing, Yu. On this day, when Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the training room, she saw that Di Beichen was already cultivating. A faint smile appeared on her delicate and perfect face. Di Beichen was able to reach this stage not only because of his talent and resources, but also because of his hard work. Every time she saw Di Beichen cultivating seriously, she always felt that this kind of Di Beichen was exceptionally charming. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang appear, Di Beichen's face lit up with a doting smile. "My wife, you're here." Chapter 1760. In a few more days, Gong Shaoqing and the rest will be reporting to Tiangang's sect. Di Beichen smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. Recently, Hongzhuang had been staying in her sleeping quarters and had not left at all. Thinking about it, on one hand, it was because of the rumors in the sect. On the other hand, it was because there were no familiar faces in the sect. Although Hongzhuang had never expressed it, he could understand. Now, the cultivators in Tiangang's sect had many guesses about Hongzhuang. However, he could not stop everyone's guesses. If he forcefully gave the order, it would only make the situation worse. Therefore, they could only wait for the other cultivators to arrive and Hongzhuang would slowly change everyone's minds. He believed that with Hongzhuang's ability, it would not be a problem for her to do all this. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. "Yes, time passes very quickly. I haven't seen them for a while, and I really miss them." Di Beichen stroked Bailey Hongzhuang's silky smooth hair and his smile became even more affectionate. This period of time with Hongzhuang had been peaceful and wonderful to him. As long as he could see Hongzhuang's figure every day, he would feel very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned on Di Beichen's shoulder and a complicated light flashed in her ink-black phoenix eyes. She had never told anyone about the Chaos Ring because it was simply too mysterious and its effects were unusually powerful. If such a divine weapon were to be found out by others, it was very likely that it would bring about a fatal disaster for her. Therefore, for so long, she had never told anyone about the Chaos Ring. The three beasts also kept their mouths shut. They were all too aware of the principle that an innocent man would get into trouble for possessing a jade ring. Now, she increasingly felt that the experience in the Door of Darkness was very helpful in increasing her power. Originally, Bewitching had asked her to stay in the cultivation room to cultivate at night. This way, it would be more convenient for her to cultivate and she would not need to run back and forth. However, she still returned to her own room at night. Not for anything else, but to cultivate in the Door of Darkness. With the help of the Door of Darkness, Bailey Hongzhuang's speed of improvement was extremely fast. Even Bewitching was amazed. She pondered for a long time whether or not she should tell Bewitching the news. It was not that she did not trust Bewitching, it was just that no matter how many vows she made, they were all defeated in the face of benefits. In the Xingxian continent, this kind of thing was not rare. On the contrary, it was very common. Even if it was a couple who had a good relationship, after meeting a treasure, they might have their own thoughts and go against each other. The Chaos Ring was such a heaven-defying artifact. Once word got out, it would have a huge impact. However, after much consideration, Bailey Hongzhuang finally decided to tell Bewitching about this matter. This was because she believed that the relationship between her and Bewitching was strong enough, and it was not something that could be destroyed by personal interests. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, "Bewitching, there's something I want to tell you." Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's deep thoughts, Bewitching's expression became more serious. His gentle gaze focused on Bailey Hongzhuang as he said, "Wife, please speak. Your husband is all ears." Seeing Bewitching's serious expression, the corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose slightly, forming a beautiful arc. "Actually, there's something I've never told you," Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Chapter 1761. When she said this, an idea suddenly emerged in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. Actually, she wasn't the real Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't know if she should tell Bewitching about this. Most people would think that there was something wrong with her head if they heard her say this. Most people wouldn't believe her. However, to her, Bewitching was someone she could trust. Actually, she didn't want to hide anything from Bewitching. When Bewitching noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's heavy mood, he couldn't help but put his right hand on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. He didn't know what was wrong with Hongzhuang today. Why did she have such a complicated expression on her face? Logically speaking, nothing should have happened to Hongzhuang recently. "Wifey, no matter what happens, your husband will always stand by your side." Bewitching's voice was low and powerful. In his heart, no one could compare to Hongzhuang. No matter what happened, he would always stand by Hongzhuang's side. No matter if Hongzhuang was right or wrong. In his heart, Hongzhuang was right. Hearing Bewitching's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart trembled slightly. A feeling called being moved spread through her heart. That's right. From the first time they met until now, Bewitching had always been like what he said. He would always stand by her side. No matter what happened, he had never doubted her. Even when the palace master and the elders were against it, he still persisted. During the assessment, he didn't hesitate to let everyone know that she was the woman he loved deeply. Facing Bewitching like this, what did she have to worry about? "Bewitching, I've always had a secret." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. To her, this was a huge secret. Bewitching stared at Bailey Hongzhuang quietly. He didn't know what Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to say, but he knew that no matter what Hongzhuang said, it wouldn't affect them at all. "Bewitching, aren't you curious? I was bullied in the general's residence for so many years, and I've always been a good-for-nothing who couldn't cultivate. Why would I suddenly be able to cultivate one day? And why would I change so much from before?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Bewitching. Her transformation back then was a mystery to many people. No one knew how she managed to achieve such a transformation. No matter how others investigated, there would be no results. Hearing this, Bewitching's starry eyes flashed, but he didn't answer. He didn't know the answer to this. When he first met Hong Zhuang, he had asked He Mu to investigate her, but the results of the investigation were as if the eldest miss of the general's residence had suddenly changed overnight. No one knew how her eyes had healed, no one knew why she could suddenly cultivate, and no one knew why her cultivation had reached such a high level. All of these things were linked together to form an incomprehensible mystery. They could only think that Bailey Hongzhuang had always been in disguise. She had deliberately pretended all this in order to cancel her engagement with Shen Yuanhuan. Other than this, they couldn't find any other reason. But when they thought of this reason, they still couldn't find an explanation. Chapter 1762. After Di Beichen failed to investigate this point, he did not pay much attention to it. To him, the most important thing was Bailey Hongzhuang. As for other things, they were not that important. Now that he heard Hongzhuang mention this point, he could not help but feel a little surprised. From Hongzhuang's tone, he felt that this matter was not simple at all. "Wife, if you're willing to tell me, I'm naturally willing to listen. If you're not willing to talk about this matter, I won't care." Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with concern. His warm and broad palm held Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, silently giving Bailey Hongzhuang strength. For some reason, after seeing Hongzhuang's expression and attitude, he felt a little worried. He rarely saw Hongzhuang reveal such a serious expression. He only felt that Hongzhuang was struggling when she decided to talk about this matter. He did not want to give Hongzhuang any pressure. He only hoped that Hongzhuang could be happy. Looking at Di Beichen's concerned look, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt a little relieved. Since she had already said this, she did not intend to continue hiding it. "Beichen, actually, I'm not the real Bailey Hongzhuang." When she said this, Di Beichen could not help but be stunned for a moment. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. For a moment, he doubted if he had heard wrongly or if he had misunderstood. "Wife, what do you mean?" Bailey Hongzhuang's words really made Beichen not know how to understand. Bailey Hongzhuang also knew Di Beichen's doubts and immediately continued to explain. Back then, when Bailey Hongzhuang committed suicide by swallowing gold, she had already died and completely disappeared from this world. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was somewhat emotional. If Lan Yunxiao and Mu Jinsi knew that their real daughter had already fallen, they would definitely be very pained. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang had endured such pain and persevered. However, she had chosen to end her own life under the torture of the general's residence. In fact, apart from Di Beichen, she did not intend to tell anyone else about this matter. Di Beichen's handsome face was filled with shock. His eyes were gloomy and uncertain, and his expression was full of doubts. At that time, he had also heard that the eldest daughter of the general's mansion had committed suicide. It was said that because she couldn't bear the blow of Shen Yuanhuan's withdrawal of marriage, she chose to cry, make a fuss, and hang herself. At that time, she was laughed at by everyone. Most people thought that the eldest daughter of the general's mansion had made a fuss to win back Shen Yuanhuan's heart. He didn't know that the matter was so serious. "Wife, if the previous Bailey Hongzhuang is already dead, then who are you?" Di Beichen couldn't understand for a moment. Could it be that his wife was impersonating Bailey Hongzhuang? If that was the case, how could his wife know so much about Bailey Hongzhuang? This was a little too strange. Could it be that this was something that his wife had planned long ago? Even so, how could there be two people who looked exactly the same in this world? Although he knew that his wife's disguise technique was very powerful, he also knew that his wife's face wasn't a disguise. Then, what was this situation? Chapter 1763. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen's deep and enchanting eyes were filled with doubt and puzzlement. Hongzhuang's explanation made him even more confused. Her soul wasn't completely. This sounded too inconceivable. "Actually, I'm a ghost from 1,000 years ago. I've crossed over to the present. Coincidentally, Bailey Hongzhuang had fallen, so my soul entered her body. Her beautiful and delicate face was filled with a faint smile, her bright and watery eyes staring at Bewitching. She loved Bewitching too much, she only hoped that there would be no secrets between them. After all, the memories of her past life had always existed in her mind. Sometimes, when she showed some strange talents, it would be inconvenient to hide them. Over time, she believed that Bewitching's doubts would grow stronger. Instead of waiting until then, it would be better to tell Bewitching everything now. When these words came out, Bewitching stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze, his deep and spirited eyes revealing shock and emptiness. This news was simply too unbelievable. If the person who spoke was not Hongzhuang, he would definitely think that the other party was talking nonsense. However, seeing Hongzhuang's serious expression, he understood that Hongzhuang was definitely not joking with him. When he connected this point, he suddenly realized that everything could be linked together. Why did Hongzhuang have such a big change after swallowing gold and committing suicide? Why did Hongzhuang suddenly know medicine, disguise, and even alchemy? Why did Hongzhuang clearly like Shen Yuanhuan before, suddenly have no feelings for Shen Yuanhuan at all? Previously, he didn't understand and only thought that Hongzhuang might have an extremely mysterious master behind her. However, he and Hongzhuang had been together for so long, he had never seen the existence of that master. Clearly, Hongzhuang did not have any contact with anyone else. However, later on, he had always been together with Hongzhuang, so he didn't think about these questions. Now that Hongzhuang took the initiative to mention this point, he finally understood. Wife, you mean that you're a person from 1,000 years ago? Bewitching couldn't help but ask again. Although Hongzhuang had already explained it clearly, this news was too shocking. Even if it was a wandering soul from the same era, perhaps he could still understand. However, a wandering soul from 1,000 years ago, could it be that his wife had always existed in the form of a wandering soul for so many years? Bewitching only felt that Hongzhuang's words had really refreshed his understanding. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, yes. So, you've been a wandering soul for the past 1,000 years? Bewitching was somewhat puzzled. If the previous Bailey Hongzhuang had fallen and his wife's soul could enter her body, then in the past 1,000 years, hadn't she entered other people's bodies? Seeing that Bewitching was a little bit confused, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but shake her head. No. I only appeared after knowing the current year. The era I lived in was 1,000 years ago. In fact, 1,000 years ago, I fell because of an accident. When I woke up again, I had already become Bailey Hongzhuang. As for why I appeared 1,000 years later and why I became Bailey Hongzhuang, I'm not particularly clear. Chapter 1764. The power of the Chaos Ring was so great that it had created a spatial storm. She had then turned into Bailey Hongzhuang. All of this had been caused by the Chaos Ring. As for why it had chosen Bailey Hongzhuang, it was probably because they had coincidentally bumped into Bailey Hongzhuang at that time. Sometimes, she felt that all of this had been predestined. After all, their names were exactly the same. This coincidence was far too rare. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, Bewitching finally understood. After his wife had fallen, her soul had directly entered Bailey Hongzhuang's body. That was how all of this had happened. After I entered Bailey Hongzhuang's body, I had also merged with her memories. Therefore, I can only say that the current me is a combination of my past life and Bailey Hongzhuang's. Her soul had long been merged with the memories of these two lives. Therefore, both of them were her, but not completely her. Bewitching was a little stunned. This news was far too shocking. He simply could not believe that something like this had actually happened. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Bewitching. When she saw that Bewitching had been staring at her in a daze without any reaction, her clear eyes could not help but fill with a trace of worry. She did not know if Bewitching could accept all of this. She had been very conflicted before she had brought up this matter. Anyone who had heard of this matter would find it hard to believe. Even though this matter was very hard to believe, Bewitching had quickly digested it and understood it. Di Beichen raised his eyes and saw the worry in Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes. He immediately pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his arms. Her worry made his heart ache. He had never wanted Hongzhuang to feel anxious because of him. Suddenly being pulled into Di Beichen's arms, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. The worry in her eyes gradually wavered. Di Beichen gently patted Bailey Hongzhuang's back. His warm and mellow voice rang in Bailey Hongzhuang's ears. My wife, no matter who you are, no matter if you're from 1,000 years ago or 1,000 years later, to me, you're still my wife. Your identity will not change anything. His warm and magnetic voice seemed to have a mysterious power, inexplicably calming Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. Di Beichen's words put her heart down again, and Bailey Hongzhuang's lips could not help but raise a happy smile. Her judgment was not wrong. Di Beichen would not care about these things. Even if Di Beichen knew the truth, it would not affect anything. As Di Beichen stroked Bailey Hongzhuang's back, he suddenly thought of something. His eyes could not help but turn gloomy. Sensing Di Beichen's strange behavior, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but withdraw from his arms and look at Di Beichen. Di Beichen's face was as gloomy as water. His eyes, which were as deep as the sea, were now covered with dark clouds. His eyes were unreadable, making it impossible for anyone to see through his thoughts. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Di Beichen and could not help but feel worried. Beichen, what's wrong with you? Does she still care about this after all? Di Beichen's hands suddenly grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders. His eyes, which were as attractive as black holes, were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. My wife, you weren't married in the past, were you? Chapter 1765. Looking at Di Beichen's nervous and perturbed look, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart, which had been hanging in the air again, calmed down. She felt that it was very funny. When she saw Di Beichen's dignified look earlier, she thought that it was something important. She did not expect that Di Beichen was actually thinking about her marriage. This man's concern was not the main point at all. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Di Beichen. A sly look quietly appeared in her eyes. Usually, when Di Beichen teased her, she could not resist at all. Now, she finally had a chance to tease Di Beichen. If I say, I was married in the past, what will you do? Bailey Hongzhuang looked a little nervous. She looked at Di Beichen worriedly, as if it was difficult for her to speak. As soon as she said that, Di Beichen's face suddenly darkened. His eyes were even more oppressive and cold. Time seemed to have suddenly frozen. Only the sound of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's breathing could be heard in the room. It was indescribably oppressive. Di Beichen did not care about who Hongzhuang was in the past. The only thing he cared about was whether Hongzhuang had someone else in her heart. However, now that he knew that Hongzhuang was married in the past, didn't this mean that Hongzhuang also had a man she loved deeply in the past? At the thought of this, Di Beichen could not help but tighten his grip on Bailey Hongzhuang's arm. He never thought that something like this would happen. He only felt a stuffy feeling in his heart, which made him panic. No matter how serious his injuries were, he had never felt so uncomfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a pain coming from her arm. Di Beichen had used too much strength. She only wanted to make a joke, but after seeing Di Beichen's dignified expression, she felt that her joke seemed to have gone too far. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly spread into a smile. Her eyes were bright and full of color, blooming like stars in the sky. Beichen, are you jealous? Looking at the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, especially after seeing the sly look in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, how could Di Beichen, who was smart, not know that Hongzhuang did it on purpose? Wife, are you lying to me? Di Beichen raised his voice. What Hongzhuang had just said really shocked him. This unexpected situation happened too suddenly, completely out of her expectations. For a moment, he did not know what to do. He only felt a wave of pain. However, Hongzhuang was only teasing him. At the thought of this, Di Beichen's eyes became increasingly gloomy. His wife was becoming more and more disobedient. She actually dared to lie to him about this kind of thing. Hee hee. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. When she saw Di Beichen's face, which was as black as the bottom of a pot, she found it even more hilarious. Beichen, you're too cute, haha. She had never seen Di Beichen like this. It was simply too amusing. However, at the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang was deeply moved. Di Beichen did not care about anything else. The only thing he cared about was her feelings. This was really touching. However, when Di Beichen saw Bailey Hongzhuang's smiling face, he only felt that it was time to discipline Hongzhuang. She actually dared to lie to him about this kind of thing. In the next moment, Di Beichen exerted force with both hands and carried Bailey Hongzhuang to sit on his lap. Chapter 1766. The atmosphere became ambiguous in an instant. Bailey Hongzhuang's white face was instantly covered with a blush. The position in front of her was too ambiguous. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately wanted to go down, but Di Beichen's broad palm had been holding her slender waist. The strong and overbearing force did not allow her to leave. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him with a deep and penetrating gaze. His wife was getting more and more naughty. She even dared to make such a joke with him. He had to properly punish his wife. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen angrily. He was really bad. Knowing that she had no way to deal with such a situation, he deliberately used such a way to punish her. Let me down. Bailey Hongzhuang struggled. This kind of situation made her feel at a loss. Although she was extremely close to Di Beichen, this was the first time they were in such an ambiguous position. They were so close, separated only by a thin cloth. Faintly, she could feel the heat from Di Beichen, which made her feel helpless. Di Beichen originally just wanted to tease Bailey Hongzhuang, but after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's shy and helpless appearance, the desire in his heart immediately jumped up. At this moment, coupled with the constant twisting, he only felt that his body was about to explode. His wife was simply igniting fire everywhere. Di Beichen grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand and said, "Wife, if you continue to move like this, I can't guarantee what will happen next." When he opened his mouth, there was a hint of hoarseness. Di Beichen's eyes were instantly dyed with the light of desire. His eyes were blurred and domineering as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Last time, they were disturbed by Xia Jiqing and the others, but now, it was only them. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood the meaning of Di Beichen, and immediately did not dare to move. Because she also felt that there was a change in Di Beichen's body, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was smiling proudly and became an obedient kitten in a short time, and his lips could not help but raise a smile. "Wife, do you dare to tease me in the future?" Bailey Hongzhuang's face was so red that it could drip water. At this moment, when she saw Di Beichen's teasing look, she could not help but feel ashamed. Damn Di Beichen! Every time, I was defeated by his hands. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang pursing her lips and looking unwilling, Di Beichen's eyes gradually deepened. He raised his eyebrows and said, "It seems that the wife is still unwilling to admit defeat." The next moment, Di Beichen's figure suddenly moved. In the blink of an eye, Di Beichen had already carried Bailey Hongzhuang to the bed. At this moment, their posture was more ambiguous than before. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen with shame. At this moment, Di Beichen was already on top of her, and her legs were still separated. Di Beichen leaned forward, and the hot part was so close to her that she could not help but shiver. Although the last time she and Di Beichen had been in a state of delirium, after all, they had not reached this step. At this moment, when she was really in this situation, she knew how embarrassing it was. She only felt that her mind was blank, and she stared at Di Beichen, not knowing what to say. Chapter 1767. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang like this, Di Beichen could not hold back the excitement in his heart. He immediately kissed Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips. Her soft red lips were filled with an enchanting fragrance. Once he kissed her, he would be intoxicated. Bewitching's kiss was wild and hot, with a trace of dominance and possessiveness. He searched for Bailey Hongzhuang's body and played with it. He was glad. He was glad that his wife had transmigrated into Bailey Hongzhuang's body. If not for that, everything that happened later would not have happened. His heart would still be so empty. There would not be a ray of warm sunlight shining on his heart like Hongzhuang. He was even more glad that his wife had not married in her previous life. There was no one else in her heart. Otherwise, it would be too difficult to completely defeat the person from 1,000 years ago in his wife's heart. Thinking of all these, Bewitching wanted Bailey Hongzhuang even more. He wanted her. He wanted her crazily. Even though she was by his side now, he still felt a sense of crisis in his heart. The equally outstanding Mo Yinjue was watching covetously from the side. For Hongzhuang's matter, Mo Yinjue was also giving his all. He did not mention this problem, but it did not mean that he was not worried. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were blurred. From the initial embarrassment to Bewitching's kiss, the ambiguous atmosphere was spreading. Her body temperature was also rising. She responded to Bewitching with a jerky but passionate response. From Bewitching's kiss, she keenly felt a trace of worry and uneasiness. She did not know what had caused Bewitching's uneasiness. To her, she only wanted Bewitching to feel at ease. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's response, Bewitching's kiss became more intense. From her red lips to Bewitching's slender white neck. His warm breath sprayed on Bailey Hongzhuang's neck. She only felt her body go limp, as if she had no strength in her body. Fine and dense kisses fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Bewitching's breathing became more rapid and heavy. His hands slowly reached into Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes. Feeling the delicate and tender skin, Bailey Hongzhuang's body ignited everywhere. Bailey Hongzhuang's little face flushed red. She could only let Bewitching do what he wanted, but she did not know what to do. Bewitching's hands seemed to have magic. Wherever his hands touched, the skin would emit an astonishing heat. Bewitching only felt that every inch of Bailey Hongzhuang's skin had a fatal attraction to him. For so many years, he had been surrounded by many women, but none of them had ever moved his heart. Furthermore, he had always been a chaste person. Therefore, no woman had ever appeared by his side. There was only one woman that he could not restrain himself from, and that was his wife. 2 years ago, he had not been so thirsty. After not seeing Hongzhuang for 2 years, he felt that he could not restrain himself anymore. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was at a loss of what to do, Bewitching held Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand and put it into his clothes. When she touched Bewitching's strong and smooth skin, Bailey Hongzhuang found that Bewitching's body temperature was even hotter than hers. It was as if a flame was burning her palm. As Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and boneless little hand covered his chest, Bewitching only felt that he had touched a piece of ice in the flame. He felt very comfortable. Chapter 1768. In the next moment, Bewitching directly grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand and felt his scalding heat. When Bailey Hongzhuang realized what she was touching, she only felt a bang in her mind, and then there was only a blank space left. Although she didn't know much about the matters between men and women, she knew what this was. Following the touch of Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand, Bewitching only felt that he was about to explode. This feeling was really killing him. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but close her eyes. Her face was so red that it was about to drip blood. She immediately tried to pull her hand away. Bewitching had already guessed Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. How could he allow her to pull her hand away? He held on tightly to Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, not allowing her to retreat even an inch. Bewitching. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but call out softly. This situation was really too embarrassing. Bewitching raised his eyes that were filled with lust. Those reddened eyes and the beads of sweat on his forehead showed that he was having a hard time holding himself back. Seeing Bewitching like this, Bailey Hongzhuang's original words were stuck in her mouth and she didn't say anything. The moment Di Beichen's hand touched Bailey Hongzhuang's leg, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but tremble. That limp and numb feeling made her moan uncontrollably. And it was this sound that made Di Beichen, who was already unable to hold himself back, completely ignited. He reached his hand into Bailey Hongzhuang's skirt. He only felt that everything on his body was unnecessary. Beichen, I guessed that you were in the cultivation room. I heard that you had already brought your precious wife back from the assessment. But it's been so long, why didn't you let me see her? Isn't that too much? A carefree and sunny voice sounded from above the training room, followed by a series of movements. Hearing this sudden voice, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be surprised. She never thought that someone would appear at this time. From the looks of it, the other party seemed to be very familiar with this cultivation room. Judging from the commotion, it was clear that he was about to enter the cultivation room. Damn it! Di Beichen's voice was hoarse as he slammed his fist onto the edge of the bed. This guy just had to come at this time. She had disturbed him. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at her and Di Beichen's disheveled and messy appearance. The other party was clearly coming down directly. What should they do if they saw him? Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately pushed Di Beichen. Her moist and blurry eyes were filled with nervousness and panic. What should we do? She had never encountered such a situation before and could not help but feel flustered. Di Beichen glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Wen Xiren, I dare you to come down here right now." Wen Xiren was just about to enter the cultivation room in high spirits when he suddenly heard Di Beichen's shout. He could not help but be stunned for a moment. All along, Di Beichen's personality had been rather good. It was rare to see him so furious. Could it be that he had been dumped by his precious wife? Although Wen Xiren didn't quite understand, he still stopped himself from going downstairs. He and Di Beichen had been good friends for many years. Their masters were good friends as well. Hence, they had often cultivated together when they were young. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.